the umbrella of the style of leadership that I champion was created in the 1980s by two authors, Burns and Bass, and it's transformational leadership. It's about the vision. It's very opposite of autocratic leadership, which sometimes is about us as the leader. No, it's not about us. It's about what we accomplish. It's about our team. It's ultimately about the mission. And you did talk about me being a conductor, and people think that a conductor is a dictator. Well, tell you what, I've conducted union orchestras, and you stand in front of an orchestra with a little white stick. You can't make anybody do anything. You can, however, influence them. You've hired them for a 2-hour gig. They're going to rehearse, play the notes, and go home. Well, we inspire them to perform at a higher level. Now, I am the president of SynerVision International. It's the synergy of a common vision that I've trademarked, the word SynerVision. I got the hat on today of SynerVision Leadership Foundation. It's really the business of running a charity, of running a church, of running a synagogue, of running a university. It's the business. It's not a for-profit, but a for-purpose. So it's a lot of the similar stuff, more rules, and it's an awful lot harder. So I'm going to go through a baseline of several things, and I'm going to talk about what doesn't work. Then I'm going to talk about how do we need to remedy it. And in 34 years of doing this work with amazing people and amazing programs to transform people's lives, there's no reason for failure. There's no reason to be limited. So I want to cover a lot of base in just a few minutes, but at the end, I'm going to give you a link for my podcast, which covers is 31 Days to Becoming a Better Leader, covers all these themes in depth, and it's free. So let me start walking through that. Now, please, if you have questions or comments, put them in the chat. Linda's going to watch them, and Linda, you can interrupt me whenever you want, and we can just address those. So here it is. Becoming a leader that transforms nonprofit organizations. We transform people's lives by transforming ourselves and transforming the organization. So the before the pandemic, the burnout rate was 45%. There were lots of leadership gaps, and there's reasons for burnout that we'll talk about, but we want to talk about those gaps, what's missing. We call them blind spots. We really can't see them. So I'm going to highlight some of those, help you think about them. And then our systems. Oh, let's talk about bad meetings. No. Let's not run bad meetings anymore. So don't copy the slides. I can provide them for you, but think about, what are you going to do with the knowledge? What are you going to do with the ideas? You might think of something that I don't say, but I might trigger something. Who do you need to do that? And what are some of the concepts that I'm talking about that are maybe contrary to what you've been doing? Many times we've been taught wrong, and we've inherited systems that are broken. And it's so important. Every day we don't function at a high level in the nonprofit world. People go hungry. People don't have a place to live. People are in danger. So it's important work, and it's more important today than ever before. And then what are you going to do next? So here we are. So the issues that are front and center, there's a lot of myths that we have. We'll talk about some of those as I go through the points. Never stop working on yourself. It depends on leadership. Everything depends on leadership. Everything depends on building, as a leader, building a team around the vision, and then defining your position of influence. I'm a conductor, boom, I don't make any sound. People respond to what I've set up, and it's in their music, like your strategy. And then that's the team. A high-functioning team responds to the leader. So if your team isn't responding, maybe we should look in the mirror. And then stress. We all have stress. It's managing the stress, because the anxiety we have is very contagious. So here I am in my penguin suit, Linda. So focus on outcomes. The conductor is a leader. The conductor knows how to build high-performance teams. We must give clear directions. I can't tell you how often we, and I'm included in this, we get bad results because we're not very clear. Model excellence. People will do what you do, and manage yourself. That anxiety piece. Okay, there's lots of reasons nonprofits fail, and there's no logical reason we should close. Half of the nonprofits that are formed every year will close. We can prevent that. So let's talk about, okay, we're stressed, we're frustrated because we don't know what's going on. Maybe I'll trigger something. We have some emotional blocks. We have reasons that we don't make it happen. Let's identify what some of those are. So think for a minute, drop in the chat. What is a short phrase or a couple of words that defines what success means for you? I'm going to trigger some thoughts. So put it in there. What does success mean for you? My dream is I have an active nonprofit. Center Vision Leadership Foundation is a 501c3. We work with other organizations to raise the bar on their performance. We don't feed people. We help others feed more people, et cetera, et cetera. My board's engaged. My volunteers are engaged. Those are not always true. I have low stress because I have a lot of people around me helping me. And it's because I have a very clear vision. We have some mics open, so I'm hearing some sounds. There's regular recurring revenue that comes in. We do have a business model where the people buy things. There's people subscribe, people donate. So there's regular recurring revenue, just like your business. It's a for-purpose business. And people know that we deliver value. So here's the top 5. There's a number of challenges, but in my mind, here's the biggest challenges. We started out, there's a lot of things we don't know, and we find out as we're going, and maybe I've been doing this since 2010, so I still find out things every day that I didn't know. So we could get paralyzed by the unknown, and we want to please people, so we might, and I find power leaders in multinational businesses, they don't want to say something because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Well, wait a minute. We have principles, we have values, we have work we're doing. We need to be direct. Just so think about, I'm in a rehearsal and I stop the rehearsal and say, trumpets, that's too loud, take it down one dynamic level. Well, there's leaders that don't make those kind of course corrections, and we're perceived to be poor leaders. Trumpets aren't mad, they market the music and we do it again. That's what people expect. So we want to be the leader. We avoid conflict? No. Conflict is a sign of energy. We're going to have it. We manage conflict and defining what's true for you, because everybody has their own story. So we're afraid of a lot of things. Sometimes we make those things up and that holds us back. We're fuzzy because the systems aren't defined. Our vision isn't clearly defined in steps, and our goals, well, it's going to be this. I can tell you what my goal is, but I haven't written it down. So it's not definitive, and it's not written in present tense. So the teams, the boards, the volunteers, they don't function up to speed because we haven't been clear. And then anxiety. I directed church choir for 40 years. I was anxious every Sunday morning. Are people going to come? Are they going to show up? When I beat time, are they going to sing? So there's just turmoil in our society, and it comes into our organizations. So it fuels the despair. People feel unsafe sometimes, and people are talking about others. That's not new with the pandemic. It's been in existence for a long time. People are people, and we bring issues in. Our job is to be very, very clear on where we're going. Focus on the work, focus on the people, focus on empowering people to accomplish, well, it's their passion. That's why they're there. They're volunteers. We do have some staff, but by and large, we have lots of volunteer advisors, board members, committee members. So we have people doing a lot of stuff, and we don't want them to be focused on the anxiety, and we don't want to spread it. Money. We have a fear of money. We don't want to talk about money. Therefore, we don't have money. Therefore, we can't accomplish our mission. So we want to be very clear on the value proposition, the impact. So we have less funding. We have less business support. We have less donor conference. We have less outreach. I think we can fix those. So let's go on and talk about, but we do have less funding than we need. And there's lots of restrictions. Some of these are self-imposed as leaders. Less free time. People tell me they work 15-hour days, 7 days a week, haven't had a break. That's not good. That's not good. So we have limited support services. Think of this as a business. We assume that there's lots of restrictions. So let's talk about the other side of this. Those are the top 5 biggest ones. There are many, many more. But those are the ones I see that hold people back the most. Except there's one more. It's us. Us, our ability. John Maxwell in his has the law of the lid in his 17 irrefutable laws of leadership. Our organization cannot function any better than our ability to lead it. So we hit that ceiling, we hit that lid, he calls it. So always working on our abilities. I'm 76. I have two coaches. I'm always working on my ability. I have a leadership coach. I teach leadership. I have nonprofit coaches. So let's go through these 10 areas. I am so surprised that so many organizations, for-profit, nonprofit, do not have a written strategic plan. People say, I'll have a business plan. Okay, that's something you give to your banker, give to your funder. It's a business model. It talks about what you're going to do, the results, and it's a very basic, very important document. A strategic plan has that part of it, but it also has the operational part of it. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's an engagement tool for your board and your volunteers. They know because you've connected the dots. So fundamentally, in Synervision for nonprofits, we call this a solution map. Fundamentally, it's where you're going to be and how you're going to get there. In music, that's our conductor score. Everything that happens is written down. And it's your roadmap. It's where you want to be. And it's your engagement tool. And you don't stop it after 5 years and write a new one. You evaluate it and you grow it every 6 months. So you always have a long-term plan that's always up to date. You migrate it over time and you learn things, but you're still headed in the direction where you want to be, unless there's a major change in the world. Strategic plan defines your core competencies you're going to need. It defines what programs you need. It defines the money as a budget there. And so other things depend on having this. You can't do a funding plan. You can't do a marketing plan unless you have this. You can't go and write grants unless you have this. So this is the backbone of everything. And I hear silly excuses like, oh no, it's going to limit my creativity. I've got a piece of music with notes. That doesn't limit my creativity. That nails what I'm supposed to be doing. So all of my energy goes to creating it. So it unleashes my creativity. It's the container. The same thing with your strategy. It's your container for creativity. We surround ourselves with the people that we identified. We need the competencies identified in our strategic plan. Writing competencies, marketing competencies, fundraising competencies, recruiting competencies, et cetera, et cetera. We've defined it. And now we find the people. And as a leader, we have equipped ourselves to lead other leaders. Now, transformational leadership, just the umbrella of transformational leadership, is the culture of leaders. So in an orchestra, I hire the very best oboe player. Well, that's a leader. The first oboe player is the head of the section, the concert master, concert mistress, the head of the violin, head of the orchestra. They are leaders. I engage and empower those leaders to function together. So Synervision is like ensemble in music. It's the sum of the parts is greater. The result is greater than the sum of the parts. So we get more done because we learn how to listen and work together. So our job isn't to do it. Our job is to lead it. There's where we start the overfunctioning. We do too many things. And what do people say when you're not there? Do they know exactly what your value proposition is? Do they know what you do? Do they really understand? This is so key for donors. This is so key for people who want to serve on the board. It's so key for people who want to support you. What do you represent and why is it important? It's not a pretty picture we call a logo. There's my logo up there, but it's your identity, the brand identity, the brand promise, the brand value. There's lots of parts to it, and it comes from your strategy. That's the beginning of it. Now, everything ties in with your color and your images, but your brand recognition is important. And then part of the strategy that leads to that is your value. What is the unique value? Okay, suppose you have a charity and you feed people. Okay, in Lynchburg, my city of 80,000 people, there's 30 food charities. They haven't really distinguished why they're different, and none of them have learned to work together. And so what is your market advantage? Why should somebody fund you? Why should somebody support you? Why should somebody come and serve? Why is it different? This is the biggest deal. Define what value you deliver and why it's important. And are you duplicating what somebody else is doing? So that's looking at your competition before you get started. But after you get started, look at your competition. If it's too close, maybe there's a collaboration where you could combine efforts and make your money go further and your energy. Technology. In 34 years of working with leaders, we're really not utilizing technology properly. We just post out there on Facebook and expect a whole bunch of people to come. Social media is social. It's an engagement. It's a conversation. It's just like what we do person to person, but it's magnified all over the world. So somebody who understands the technical part of it, but somebody that understands the social part of it and the marketing part of it, we can't do it. We might be good at it, but if you're going to lead, you step out of doing and you lead. You empower other people. Sometimes leaders do so much and they complain that volunteers aren't doing enough because they're doing too much. We call this over-functioning, and we set up the reciprocity of under-functioning. We all do it. So it just maybe having a team around you of confidential advisors that helps you see the blind spots. I teach this stuff. I still wrestle with it. So delegating it, that's the word, delegate. It's defining the end result, finding somebody capable, giving them what the definition is very clear, what's it look like when it's done, and then giving them the information and then championing it. It's not micromanaging, it's mentoring. And 6 out of 10, can you get on an elevator and somebody says, what does Synervision do? We transform leaders, transforming organizations, transforming lives, building legacies. And they get out. That's your vision. Wow. How do you do that? Well, the mission is we have learning programs, we have live events, we have engagements, we have seminars, we have workshops. We empower leaders not only to learn, but to work together and discover what's hidden. So the vision and mission are the clarity of your work. It sets up the reason why people should participate, why they should support you, and all of that. So it's so important. And your vision is the clarity of why. What is it you're doing and why are you doing it? Now, because you've got your strategy, you've got your unique value proposition, you've built relationships. Now you can find a specialist, as there are people who understand how this funding works, certified funding professionals in the Association for Funding Professionals, people who make a living talking about money. That's what they do. They're good at it. We need to delegate that piece, but we're only able to delegate it if we have the strategy, if we have the team. Funders are going to look at your team. Are they capable? Are they active? Is your board actually donating to your project? There's lots of factors. So a fundraising professional can not only write grants. Now there's 8 streams of revenue for a nonprofit. Grants is one of them, but donors make up the large majority. Sponsors, it's just like in a for-profit business. People want to promote their brand. They use marketing money. They can do it for your nonprofit because you represent their brand. But you have to have a clear brand and a very good brand for them to want to associate with you. And so there's lots of ways that we go about funding, but we build relationships. We find somebody to write the plan, and everybody in the organization is active in building relationships around funding. And we talk directly about, here's the money, here's where it goes, here's the value. And we express the value in terms of impact. We're impacting people's lives. So the ROI, people put money into a business, return on their investment. Well, here, ROI is return on impact or return on life. They're given money because that money makes impact in people's lives. So this is a very clear add-on. You can't do this without your strategy. So there's lots of reasons for the strategy. Okay, we got good people. Okay, we got a good strategy. Okay, we got important work. We put them in a board meeting and we bore them. I bet you've been in a bad, boring, unproductive meeting, haven't you? Maybe even you've led a bad, boring, unproductive meeting. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So change how you do meetings. I'm going to offer you the podcast. There's 5-minute episodes for 31 days, and there's a session on meetings. If you just drop the whole thing about agenda An agenda is an activity. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to talk about marketing. And you replace that with a different paradigm, deliverables. We're going to walk out of here, this 90-minute meeting, having defined the 5 top strategies for increasing our revenue next year. It's a very different model. It's action focused. We're going to come in there because we've seen the deliverables, thinking about it. We're going to walk out of there having done that. So agenda is about talking, it's about activity. Now, you can write an agenda the same way. It's just the word. In order to let go of the old paradigm, I find it helpful to grab a new word. Deliverables means we're going to do this. That one thing will transform meetings, transform leaders from being passive in meetings to being active in meetings. And instead of saying, oh, we have to meet again, they say, when can we meet again? Because I'm excited about this. So as the leader, don't buy into the old stuff if it's not working. We just assume that meetings have to be long and boring. No, there's a whole methodology on meetings. You get a tweak at it, but fundamentally, plan the meeting backwards. Your deliverables are what you're going to walk away from that meeting having accomplished, and then you work backwards and plan it. Now, a conductor spends 2 hours planning every hour of rehearsal. Leaders, whoever's leading the meeting, if that's you, take 2 hours to plan every hour of the meeting. And people say, I don't have time to do that. So you got time to waste really high-level leaders' time. You're going to put them in there and waste their time because you haven't planned how you're going to get the results. You haven't planned the communications. Come on, multiply the effectiveness, invest in the result, then you'll be doing less. So ultimately, you're going to be saving time. So it's an upfront investment that's less. So people give because we're managing other people's money in a nonprofit. We got to be clear about it. It's the law. Our board is responsible for that. Have a good accounting system, have a very transparent system where people know what money came in, where it went. We're responsible to IRS, but we're also accountable to our donors who want to see results from the money. And so there's lots of misconceptions. Basic accounting, you call them different things, but an income statement and a balance sheet give all the details. It's not a profit and loss statement, but it's an income statement. So here we are. This is the most important. Always work on yourself harder than you work on your enterprise. That's from Jim Rohn, wonderful speaker. Build your leadership skills, define what you support in leadership, and then I'm going to stop a minute, Linda, here. I'm going to do a quick summary of my 4 leadership principles. It'll take about 5 minutes, but I see we have some things in the chat. Are there particular comments or questions you want to throw out at this point?
Well, Raquel just noted that, you've received actually a lot of folks who have said, one, that's a ton of information that you've gone through very quickly, and they're trying to just simply keep up with the wealth of knowledge that you've provided them, Hugh. And for a lot of folks along the way, they've said, wow, that really resonates with me. Gosh, that seems so true. Yes, I'm aligned with what Hugh's saying. Most recently, Raquel said that resonates with me as an educator. Couldn't be more correct. We should always begin with the end in mind. Thank you so much for the reminder of that.
Mr. Covey. So yes, I covered a lot of stuff. That's why I'm going to give you a link. And there's just this short podcast. You can go to the webpage, you can put it on your smartphone, and it just gives you the review in depth of each one of these 31 days. So if you want to invest 5 minutes, you can do it all at once, but you can do it over 31 days. It gives you a little more context because it takes a while to absorb things. So I wanted to highlight a lot of the principles, and then you can go dig down the ones where you need it. So if you can master these 4 principles, you can lead better anywhere. There's the music score. That's your strategy. Principle number 1 is your foundation. It is know the score. So that's your strategy. It's your roadmap to success. Absolutely essential. There's me in my penguin suit from my better side, Linda. So everything comes from the plan. If you look on my music stand, there's the music. Look, everybody's got their version of it. So that's our strategy. Those people have an action plan. This is what I'm responsible for. So when I get on the podium, do the downbeat, people know what to do. And by the way, we've had rehearsals that are focused on results. So we're equipped. So the good meetings that we lead build a responsive team because we've nurtured that through the methodology. So the strategy is the umbrella structure, and then we lead the implementation of it, connecting the dots. So principle 2 is relationships. In music terms, it's hire the best. That's true in any organization. So you look there, there's your team. There are different sounding instruments. There's different techniques. There's different personalities. And by the way, if you look in the back, there's the percussionist over there on the right. There's a triangle player. A triangle player may sit there and count 137 bars of rest, boom, and then they'll play this little triangle, which sounds above the whole orchestra because it's, very highly punctuated. Some people on your team are going to listen a long time, and if we don't call on them, we might miss out. So some people process before they talk. Trumpet players are loud and bold. They're out there. Violinists, they're just working all the time. They're just playing. So if you think about the different personalities of the different instruments, they all work together. So as a leader, we work with the personalities and we help them work together because it's about the music. It's about the strategy. It's about what we produce as impact in people's lives and how we work through that. Team performance. This is most of what we do as leaders, and especially in the nonprofit world. We build performance teams, we lead performance teams, we do course corrections, we affirm the people for who they are, and we build relationships. People will show up because you know them, because you've built a relationship. So our communication works internally, externally. Our building relationships works internally, externally. By the way, leadership is fundamentally about influence, but it's based on relationship. Communication is based on relationship. Funding is based on relationship. So your team performance, invest in people, and they will invest in the future of your organization because they're there, because they want to be there. And every time you're doing something that somebody else could be doing, you're robbing a volunteer of something that they could be doing. So think about it in those terms. People are there because they want to accomplish. We are the cheerleaders as a transformational leader. It's like servant leadership in that it's about the vision, but as a transformational leader, it's like the conductor. We're up front. All these instrumentalists show up, we transform them into an orchestra, we transform that into an ensemble, and we transform people's lives because they're impressed by what we do, and we've impacted them with the great music. 3, systems. So the annual review, the meetings, there's a lot of systems that we think we should have. Like at board meetings, we want to read all the minutes and then open it up for question and answer, when in fact, people should read them at home and come with a question. Otherwise, you adopt it by general consent. We waste a lot of time because we think we have to do things. Well, no. They're adults. They've agreed to be there. They can read it. And if there's something that somebody wants to lift out for a question, but I've seen boards waste 30 minutes or more at a board meeting, just wordsmithing as a committee of a whole. So that's a system in meetings. Well, boring meetings absolutely kill teams. So conducting power pack meetings, here's a couple of tips. Number 1, switch agenda to deliverables. What are you going to walk away having accomplished? 2, I mentioned a 90-minute meeting. We want to cram so much in that we can't do it. Well, you got to rehearse as the leader of the meeting. How long is this going to take? How long is this going to take? So that's your planning. How long is this going to take? So really, if you got a 90-minute meeting, plan 60 minutes worth of activity because it's going to take longer than you think. And if it doesn't, I promise you, nobody will be angry if you adjourn early. They'll be empowered. They might even stand around talking about the things they learned and the things they want to do. So we plan it from the back forward. We plan 2/3 of it. We use deliverables very specifically. And 2 important things after every meeting, after every committee, every board, every staff meeting, define the action items. Okay, what have we done in the last 90 minutes before you save time? What are the action items? There's 3 important things. What is the to-do? Who will do it? When will they do it? Those 3 things. You put it on a board. Now, the accountability now is peer-to-peer. This happens in business, happens in nonprofits, happens in church, synagogue. People assume somebody else is going to do it. No, you put it on the board. This is the task. Joe does it. Joe will bring a report next meeting. That's all there is. Now, we have this peer-to-peer accountability. You send that out in the email. Before the next meeting, you send it, but you really are going to touch base with them. Hey, Joe, how's it going? What do you need from me? That's not micromanaging. That's checking in, accountability. So you've taken the accountability peer-to-peer. You're no longer their mommy or their daddy. You're not, swinging a bat saying, why didn't you do this? You've created a system that maintains itself. And then the last piece, communication. Okay, somebody wasn't here. Maybe they were not supposed to be here, but something we decided, there's a message that needs to go to somebody because they missed the meeting, or somebody we talked about doing something. Have a communication plan. What is the specific message? Who needs to know it? And who's going to tell them? Don't skip that. One time I was working with a law firm. They had dismissed a partner. And I said, let's do this plan. Oh, no, people know. I said, humor me. Well, they hadn't told his secretary. They hadn't told the bar association. They hadn't told the subscriptions that he had. Didn't terminate those. So it was a whole lot of things that people don't think about until there's an intentionality. So we tend to get confusion from meetings because people don't know things. We tend to have confusion about who's going to do what. We can save a lot of time, stop a lot of conflict right there. The last two things in any meeting, action plan, communication plan. Make sure that you get it done because you're not trying to cram too many things into this meeting. Do the essential things and then define what you're not going to do. Here's the deliverables. We're going to do these three things. Specific statement of what you're going to accomplish. If we're going to define those 5 marketing strategies, then we can't do the details of all of them. We will assign them to a champion in your action plan. They will come back with a plan for us to consider at the next meeting. You can't do the concept and the details in the same meeting. And likewise, you can't make a decision on a big item if you're giving new information and people have to digest it. They should have it beforehand. Chance to discuss it, all the details, and then a chance to build consensus, another technique for a meeting. So you'll learn that in the podcast. The last one is balance. If we work all the time, we're no darn good. We are burning ourselves out. We're not our best, and we're not the best leader. So balance adds value. Resting gives us time for reflection. I've been resting here for this last 2 weeks, and it's amazing. Reflection helps get perspective on things. If we're running full out all the time, day and night, we lose perspective. And that helps us evaluate what we should be doing or what we shouldn't be doing. Sometimes there's things we're doing that really don't need to be done, or we could delegate them. If we get some distance from it, we could figure it out. And then we can refine what we're doing because we've been able to evaluate it. And that inspires, okay, because I've taken some stress off of my plate, I can dig into a couple of these things that I really want to do. And then it's going to empower other people to be able to do work that needs to be done. And then our planning energizes our work going forward. So here's a way you can, if you like any of these themes, you want to know more about them, the easiest way is to go to betterleader.me, betterleader.me. It's a little podcast I created, 31 days to becoming a better leader. And like I said at the beginning, we're always growing the bar, going up one ring at a time. And then if you want to do something different, decide to do it differently now. So I didn't put a link in here, but Linda, we can put it in the chat. If you want to run some things by Hugh and you want to schedule a 25-minute with me, you can go to Hugh Calendar. It's my calendar, hughcalendar.com. And you can make a time with me and also have this wonderful community of nonprofit leaders, and you can start for free. And you can meet other people, you can share with other people, you can spread ideas with peers that are specifically in the nonprofit community doing nonprofit work, which includes educators, which includes local charities, which includes associations like chambers of commerce, which includes church and synagogue. These are all in the category of nonprofit. And I think we need to learn the business model for that. There's been lots of last minute grant requests, and the grantors, the foundations have really raised the bar and done more grants in a short period of time, but there's a lot more people asking for them. So do not assume that because you have good work that you're going to be funded. Now, remember, that grants have a lot of competition. So you have to have an active donating board. If you don't have that, they won't even look at your proposal. So the first thing, your board must be participating. They all must be donating, and they must be capable. You have a staff and volunteers that can implement your strategy. Then they're going to look at your application, and in your strategic plan, you've defined the impact, the measurable outcomes. That's what attracts the money. Now, that's what the grantors wanted, and then really read the grant proposal. Are you going to do what they want to do? They have very specific things they want to see accomplished. That's your job, is to fit what they want to see having done. Otherwise, just because you think it's good, they're not going to fund you. They want something done, and they want to make sure that you're going to do it. And also build enough money in that grant that you can do the accounting, the reporting. There's a lot of reporting that goes back to the funder. That's critical. You must report on the use of funds and the results. So that's part of the grant. So make sure that you've got that mechanism in place from the beginning to gather that. Now, grants are hard to get. They're out there, and grants are awarded in multi tens of thousands, 100,000s every single day. So you might as well be there and try to be in that system. Most of the revenue for most nonprofits come from public-private donations, corporate donations. It's philanthropy money that's saying, I want to support you. So build relationships, build a list of those donors, stay in touch with them, tell them what's happened. Because when you go back this time of year and ask for the end of year donation, if they haven't heard from you, they might not donate again, or they might cut it back. But if they've heard about your work and your accomplishments, they're going to continue donating. So do not undervalue lots of small donors. They're more loyal. The big one that supports you could leave in a minute. So don't give them all the preference. Make sure that you talk to all those small donors, because you add those up together, that's significant. And then sponsorships. You want to make sure that sponsor is going to get eyeballs for their product and service. You have to market it differently. You can't do a call to action, but go to public radio, public television, listen to how they do their sponsorships. For more information, go here. They talk about the value of it, and it's a really good brand representation. And that brand, like Viking Cruises, is on Masterpiece Theater because that's their audience. They spend a lot of money. Do not underestimate. Now, that's another competitive area, but build a relationship with your donors, your sponsors, and the foundations that write grants. And then there's 7 other channels, and you'll find that in that Nonprofit Exchange podcast. So it's betterleader.me, and really it's an ongoing in-depth on all of these themes that's yours, my gift to you.